What's up, guys? Here with you, FC Wonder Kid, episode 124. Here with my guy, Bretzen. How are you?
That was an amazing week of football, Alex. An amazing, amazing week of football. So I am great. I'm buzzing. I'm ready to go. We've got Champions League to talk about. We've got the North London Derby. It's just where you want to start. So, Alex, if you're doing okay, where do you want to begin, sir?
You said it. You said it. The London Derby didn't disappoint. An epic showdown. 2-2, okay? And we can say that both teams are title contenders, maybe, with Tottenham. That is a bold statement. But Ange Postecoglou is making himself one of the best managers at Tottenham in such a short period of time. Mourinho was a different manager at Tottenham. Conte was a different manager at Tottenham. The Ange Postecoglou approach, new identity, new references, new culture, and new style of play that James Maddison is the key with Son ahead of them. What a duo. Son, Maddison. The duo that we're loving to see now.
And apparently, if you try again when it comes to Tottenham managers, at some point you'll get it right. We call that what? Trial by error. But my goodness, Big Ange has them playing. It's an identity. I mean, it's a style. It's just immensely fun to watch, and that was a fun game of football to watch where I thought Big Ange actually outcoached in some respects Arteta. And to see Son operating like a Harry Kane. It was like, Harry Kane who? Where is he? You know, we don't need Harry Kane, even though he's lighting it up in Germany. It was just an immensely fun match of football to watch. So if all the North London derbies are like this in the future, I'm ready for it. But I'll tell you what, this was a historic one. This was the first North London derby ever, Alex, where both Spurs and Arsenal went into it unbeaten. Unbeaten. And I think they both played like it. And while Manchester City looks a different breed, I think Spurs and Arsenal have what it takes to mount some sort of keep them close and see what happens later on in this season. But yeah, I mean, were you as entertained as I was? Because that was entertaining.
I love what you're saying. I think everything you just said is fucked. And people at home, let us know your thoughts too about the London Derby, and if you're agreeing with Bretzen. But I completely agree. Son has more responsibility with Harry Kane not being there. And my biggest thing is Ange Postecoglou has improved players that were already there at Tottenham. Pape Sarr, Bissouma, Pedro Porro, that was very wrongly judged by many people last season. He didn't have the bad start. He didn't have the best start, but he's not a scrub. And he's showing up. A great fullback duo with Udogie. That is a youngster, a 20-year-old with Pedro Porro. It's the trust. And yes, Romero, unfortunate that happened. But once again, Son, Maddison, Romero, Vicario is even fantastic. Like, you can see, Bissouma is phenomenal with Ange Postecoglou too. And you said that Ange Postecoglou outcoached Arteta in certain aspects. And the truth is, once they suffered a goal, Tottenham, they immediately scored afterwards. The response,
2 minutes.
Like, it's the way they think on the pitch. They find a solution immediately after they suffer a goal. Something that Tottenham, you wouldn't say 1 year ago, 2 years ago. It's something new. But focusing too on Arsenal have a special player, an English special player. It's not bold to say now that Bukayo Saka is the best player next to Harry Kane playing for England and Jude Bellingham, but the best Englishman definitely in the Premier League right now. Okay, he's clear from anyone, and he's got 86 consecutive games playing for Arsenal, the most ever for any player in the Arsenal jersey. That is bold, and that's a reference.
Iron Man, absolutely, and he's still U23. I mean, listen, Bukayo Saka on a much more granular level, he's played 8 games this year, and he hasn't contributed to a goal in just one of those games. So he's been everywhere for Arsenal, whether it is forcing an own goal, whether it was, putting away a penalty, whether it was scoring midweek in the Champions League. Bukayo Saka is that guy. right? He is him for Arsenal, and it is wonderful to see because he's so young and he's still like, there's so much more in front of him. But I do have questions, right, about this Arsenal side. I mean, obviously that Jorginho substitution at halftime very clearly did not work out because ultimately it was Jorginho that made the mistake in midfield. Okay, that stuff happens. But I have to ask you, Alex, how do you feel? Because there hasn't been a direct question from me to you about this. How do you feel about this internal competition, David Raya versus Aaron Ramsdale kind of play out? I am going to make the quick little observation that it obviously played out very nicely for Arsenal today, having Raya in goal. I'm sure Ramsdale might have been able to do what he did, but Raya made some very key saves. But how do you feel about that? Because goalkeeper's such a different position to anything else on the field. Right.
I completely agree. And I don't think it's going to be long-term very healthy having two goalkeepers at that level that are willing to play and they can play at the high level in the Premier League. Ramsdale, before Raya arrived, was being mentioned as a top 5 keeper in the Premier League. So obviously some people can question why did he come. But the truth is, Raya, in terms of reflexes, in terms of handling the ball and mistakes, okay, the way he can anticipate and read the game, I think he's better than Ramsdale, and in progressive play too. But what you get with Ramsdale is magnificent saves, moments that you won't forget. It's true, but some minor mistakes happened last season. And if life had been perfect at goalkeeper last season for Arsenal, Raya hadn't arrived. I agree. I think that's a solid point, and it's a doubt. And another doubt is Havertz. Now, I like the fact that he's not starting ahead of Fabio Vieira, because he shouldn't. But substituting Fabio Vieira, a player that has better movement, more dynamic, is better playing with Odegaard, with Saka, than Havertz right now, was I don't think, bold, and it wasn't the right decision by Arteta that I think helped Tottenham in this game, personally.
Wow. Yeah. Well, I could see a future where Kai Havertz goes back to join Xabi Alonso at his former club at Bayer Leverkusen and helps them hopefully beat the Bayern hegemony. Hegemony? I don't know how to say that word actually, but no, I'm just kidding there. But yeah, no, I love seeing Fabio Vieira getting this run out. But I do have to bring it back and swing it back to Spurs just really quickly because you mentioned it. It was briefly talked about. But how good has the James Maddison signing been? I mean, there have been two major bolt-on phenomenal signings this season, both of English players, and James Maddison has been one, and James Ward-Prowse has been the other for West Ham United. But Maddison, my heart was in my throat when I saw him go down after he locked his knee, and I got so worried for him because he had both assists on the day. He's great on set pieces. He is the perfect Ange player right now, and I really would love to see him continue to progress. As he's already worked his way back into the England squad. I mean, it's just great to see. And something I've almost forgotten how foul a large part of the Spurs season was last year. And it's still early this year, but it is wonderful to see these two clubs, Arsenal and Tottenham, having really worthy battles this season.
It's still early. Yeah. I agree with you, but Tottenham hasn't lost a game. This is mad.
No.
In such a short period of time, they didn't spend loads of money with the team that they have. Like Mickey van der Ven, okay, he could have been a bit cheaper maybe, but he's coming with a price, and he's coming and he's being productive for Tottenham too. So I think it's great. And you said English players. Look at the English players that were right this summer, okay? Jude Bellingham at Real Madrid, Harry Kane with Bayern Munich. You said Ward-Prowse at West Ham, and Madison at Tottenham. All these English players were worth the price. They were worth the price. No English tax right there. But let us know, what are you thinking about the London Derby? What do you think? Do you think Arsenal are title contenders? Do you think Tottenham will be in the top 4? This is a match that does solidify themselves in the discussion right now. Let us know what you're
Yep.
thinking, and don't forget to like this video. But we say title contenders. The team that is definitely a title contender is Man City. 2-0 win against Nottingham Forest, but we got some bad news for City fans. Rodri is not going to play against Arsenal. And Man City will not have Rodri playing against Arsenal, De Bruyne playing against Arsenal. And last season they had Gundogan, Mahrez playing against Arsenal. So they got to step up. Julian Alvarez, Doku, Erling Haaland, Phil Foden, the new references, the youth in Man City. So this is special, and I'm excited, Bretton. How are you feeling about it?
They've got depth. I mean, Mateus Nunes has already, it's as if he's been playing in a City shirt all season, right? It doesn't look any different. He looks phenomenal for them. So I'm not necessarily worried, but you mentioned it, right? Last year's season-changing win over Arsenal, I believe it was a 4-1 win, right? They had in the midfield Kevin De Bruyne, Rodri, and Ilkay Gundogan, right? They're going to have none of the above for that game, unless some sort of a what do you call it? Unless something gets rescinded, right? Unless they actually get what they need from that, but I don't see it happening. So because Rodri, I mean, he did put his hands on his throat. What can you do? But when it comes down to it, I think that they do have the depth there. Is Kovacic going to be healthy?
I don't think he's gonna play, no. But let's see.
My goodness, yeah. So hey, listen, that's October 8th. They have plenty of games previous to that. I think 2 games previous to that. So I think Manchester City, they'll be able to get the reps to who they need to get the reps to before then. But with Mateus, if Mateus Nunes was not playing as well as he has been in these last 2 games, maybe I'd be a little more worried. But Manchester City just looks a step above right now. Step above. Even a man down against Wolves for the majority of the game or half the game. They look good right now.
They look good, but they didn't score too, which is not surprising, I know, because they had a man down. But still, I do see this team maybe as a weaker side than last City's team. Well, look, what we got to see is wait and see is if Doku's going to be big time. Julian Alvarez was big time for them against Red Star. 2 goals, 2 key goals when De Bruyne ain't present, and that's what they need. New references, which Guardiola does best. He can develop these players, and Erling Haaland has in 44 games, Erling Haaland has 44 Premier League goals in 41 games for Man City. And in total, he's got 62 games, 60 goals, and 11 assists. And Man City now is the favorite to win the Champions League once again. This is mad what is going to happen. And we talk about City here, and we know when it comes to February, March, Man City will have De Bruyne back. They'll have Rodri at a high level. They have John Stones at a high level. They all have a full group. And this is going to be scary when it's the knockout stages, because that's what they do best, Man City. But you referenced Mateus Nunes too. Mateus Nunes at Man City offers adaptability to Guardiola. A player that can play fullback, he said. He has the movement and intelligence to do that. And without De Bruyne, that assist to Haaland, Mateus Nunes did a De Bruyne-like movement. That's what he brings. Versatility, and I'm excited for the future of Mateus Nunes with Pep Guardiola. I think as Portuguese, we only win with this situation. And Foden, mate. Foden needs to be the big guy through the middle. Now's the time. And especially when Bernardo Silva is being subbed off in the first half against Red Star. Like, what was that? What was that?
From what I hear, I heard it was injury as well. It's just how long. I mean, they're going to be missing a lot of pieces. It's just whether or not they're all missing on October 8th, which is the big circled date. So I don't think I'm necessarily worried. I mean, they got through. They had already won the game before Rodri was sent off. And when it comes down to it, we haven't even mentioned how flippin' strong their defense is. So it's like before we even talk about Gvardiol, before we even talk about Ruben Diaz, we're more focused on, holy crap, do they have the depth, right, to score goals? But they had already scored 2 goals before Rodri lost his marbles. And I think I look at like the Grealish Doku situation. That's a wonderful development to have. You have an embarrassment of riches. You got someone more direct, someone cutthroat, and then you've got Grealish, who will dribble at somebody, but I believe offers more completeness than, say, a Jeremy Doku. But to have both of them on that left side, that's just an embarrassment of riches. And Grealish hasn't been healthy as of late, so he's now coming back. But it is really interesting to see, like, one great game from Doku, two great games from Doku, and already people are like, they want to cast Grealish aside. They want to push him off. When let's not forget what he did and how important he was to that late run of Manchester City. I wouldn't even call it late run. That second half of the season for Manchester City on their way to the treble last season. That was very much Jack Grealish. Very much Jack Grealish. He was huge, and he's going to do it again this season. So I'm not writing him off just yet, even if Doku looks as good as I'd love him to look. But we'll find out.
Well, yeah, I think Doku's looking good. I completely agree with you. And what people are more impressed about it is Jeremy Doku just arrived. Just arrived, and Jack Grealish is on the bench. We know that Doku is a pure winger, and that with his traits, he can be one of the best wingers in the world with his explosiveness, the speed. If he gets the decision-making to have, 20 goals in the Premier League one day, that is Salah levels, if he's given the consistency. And he has to fight demons, which are the injuries. In the past at Stade Rennes, people said, where's Doku? He was injured a lot of the time. So that's why he didn't get a big move to Man City earlier, because of injuries. But let's wait and see what's going to happen with Man City, because it's going to be a long season with Arsenal better. And this team, Liverpool, ain't playing this season no more. I said Salah.
Nope.
Salah has commitment, loyalty, and Mo Salah has been involved in the last 14 Premier League games in a goal. In a goal or an assist. Mo Salah, he has that impact, and that's why he didn't leave already. Mo Salah is crucial in order for Liverpool to win the Premier League. They have elite passers now in midfield. McAllister, Szoboszlai, Trent Alexander-Arnold moving to midfield with that movement. But Darwin, Jota, Salah, the attacking options, you must say that they're title contenders the least. Do you agree with me, Breton?
Well, my predictions agree with you. I mean, we can go back to when I was in Portugal. I believe I do have Liverpool finishing second on the season. So, no, a lot of it was whether or not it all gelled together. Whether or not, I mean, McAllister, I don't think has played his best football yet for Liverpool. It's going to take a little time. Szoboszlai, that was a great game from him. Yes, absolutely. But previous to this, I know there were questions. And yet, their Klopp is still rotating the heck out of the squad for their midweek game against Lask. And they get the win. They get it late. Probably not as classy as they'd like to. They give some run out to Ben Doak, who's incredibly promising. They give Stefan Bajcetic is back. So they're grooming pieces to hopefully help them for later on this season. And then they come out and they beat West Ham pretty handily. So, yeah, I do agree. I think that they are title contenders, unless, of course, Manchester City runs away with this thing. I definitely think that they could finish second this season. And if City slips up, Liverpool should be there. But come on, five wins in 6, unbeaten to start the season. And I don't think they've even come close to playing their best football. So I'm excited about where it goes. But I got to say, Mo Salah, dude, you mentioned 14 games. I think he is the only, no, not I think. Mo Salah is the only player in Premier League history to score or assist in 12 consecutive Premier League games, not once, but twice. He's done it twice in his career in the Premier League. And he is the only person on the list to ever do that, right? He's the only person in Premier League history to do that. So this guy's an Iron Man and has been an Iron Man for them. And if I ever see him in another shirt, it's going to be very weird. But Mo Salah is Liverpool, and it's great to see.
Best African player ever in the Premier League. That's the discussion that Mo Salah is starting to have next to Drogba, next to Eto'o, he came late, but Yaya Toure was quite bold too in the Premier League. So that is a great case. And whoever said Liverpool is finished, whoever said that, they are looking really silly right now. Klopp has the team playing much different, and now with the attacking options that they have, they must be considered one of the best teams, at least to watch in the Premier League. Okay, Diogo Jota coming off the bench, scoring for a 3-1 win. Like, West Ham or no scrubs. West Ham are playing great football. And Paqueta, the off-ball pressing of Paqueta. Every time I see it, I'm like thinking, how does he keep doing this? He keeps on running and running and running. So pay attention to West Ham too. That have a great team with Kudu, Jetson Alvarez, Mavropanos, good moves. And we're going to mention more about those moves. But yes, Liverpool are going bold.
Well, yeah, and a quick little reminder that Liverpool are doing this with kind of a pieced-together defense. We saw Van Dijk back. He looked great, I think, against West Ham. I thought he looked like old Van Dijk. So it really is going to be, I think that'll be the impetus for them to consistently compete this season, or it will be their downfall. It's whether or not their defense can stick together. And I think I think the transfer window is going to be absolutely insanely massive for Liverpool to get that 1 or 2 depth pieces that they do still need. But so far so good, considering how bad last season was. So far so flipping good, right?
It's true. And Liverpool now, it's like, we're not saying that they might be in the top 4 like Tottenham. We're saying they're title contenders next to Arsenal. Yeah. So that means that Liverpool, despite not having Champions League, they're with the intention of having silverware and winning the Premier League once again with Jurgen Klopp. And I gotta respect that. I gotta say that. Not the same thing that I can say about Man United, okay? Man United did beat Burnley 1-0, but did they convince me? No, okay? They're not looking at their best. At least Bruno Fernandes can play at right winger. He can play, and he can be assisted by Johnny Evans. Evans that has played 200 games for Man United. And I like seeing a player that has passion and wants to be there, okay? You clearly see he wants to have a legacy at the club. He has intention to play well at the club. And Evans, you got to respect that. It's been the first game since 2015 of Evans. Evans hadn't played for Man United since 2015. And now he's played 200 games and assisting Bruno Fernandes in the Burnley win, okay? And that's what Man United need, especially after losing 3 games in a row.
That finish. But that Bruno finish. I mean, just expert, dude. Just expert, like perfect. And you like knew it was going to happen as that ball was lobbed in, and he just caught that so cleanly. But it was exactly what United needed. They needed to win, even though they're not playing that well. And here's the issue. That injury crisis that everybody talking about, right? That is maybe becoming a little bit of a crutch, exercise in Jurgen Klopp from last season with Liverpool, right? The injury crisis, this. It has deepened. Lisandro Martinez went out with an injury, right? Hell, I think Reguilon, he might be fine for the next game, but I think he is nursing something, and he's like the backup left back. So it's something like 11 or 12 players if you count the Antony craziness, if you count the what's the other one that I'm missing? Sancho craziness. And Rashford does not look good these days. He doesn't look good. I don't really know how better to play it. You probably know a better tactical way to put it, but there's some weird times going on at United, but at least they got the 3 points against Company and Company.
I think, imagine, for a player, seeing the locker room, seeing everything that's happening at Man United, I'm not going to blame just Erik ten Hag. I'm going to blame the Glazers in all this. I always go back to the Glazers because Erik ten Hag right now, it's himself trying to fix everything. Even Ralph Rangnick at the time, he could have been a technical director, but Erik ten Hag needs support at this club. And look, he played Evans, he played Reguilon that wanted to be there, and they get a win. It's a tough win, I agree. And Rashford, why doesn't Rashford look at his great? Because he had to play striker so many games, Marcus Rashford. And now with Højlund back, he's adapting to the team, but the team is so predictable. So predictable, because obviously you're going to attack from the left instead of going through Bruno Fernandes that is pushing inside too. So I think that Man United aren't looking as dynamic as they looked last season. They're looking more exposed, and Erik ten Hag needs to do something and bringing an Anibal Mejri. I think is something
Yeah.
positive too. He
Yeah,
costs
sure.
10 million. They paid for a player like that in 2019, and I think without Erik Ten Hag, I don't know if he was going to play with another manager, because from the past patterns of other managers at Man United, these types of players wouldn't play long term. Okay, so there's little positives that I can say, and Reguilon and Evans have more passion
Yeah.
than the other players that were playing right there. And it's a pity for Man United fans. The biggest injury for me is Luke Shaw. Luke Shaw is irreplaceable at left back, but Reguilon did a good enough job, and I think he's going to be a player that wants to have a good image and a right impact at Man United. He knows
Yep.
it's a now or bust time in his career, and everybody's going to
Right.
be looking at what he does at Man United, Reguilon. But
Well,
so much, Brett.
from like just to lament a little more, Hannibal Mejri, great shout out, because I thought he had a very decent game, and I think he can grow on that game. But here's my lamenting, right? I really wished Kabi Manu was healthy,
injured,
because this. Yeah, I really wish he was not injured right now, because my goodness, this would be the time, the place for him to break out for them. But Manchester United, we keep bringing it back to the Glazers, and as much as having a boogeyman or having a common evil or enemy is a good thing to bring everybody together, it doesn't necessarily matter if Erik Ten Hag's going to take the paycheck to come in, not see them as the problem, and start some sort of like vision quest. This is how I'm going to build Manchester United. Because if it's always going to have the asterisk, Alex, of in spite of the Glazers, right? In spite of the Glazers, he did this. It's not going to go anywhere. So either the club, and by the club, I mean the supporters of the club, need to all band together and somehow force these Glazers out, or you're basically, it's a crutch for them never to do anything from here on out.
I think you're
But do you know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm not trying to simplify the whole thing, but like, we can't keep saying but the Glazers, because if Ten Hag is there and he's still able to build something, but he's got 12 injuries. I mean, if you want to find a common enemy, maybe start with the physio department.
With
I don't know.
Glazers, it's impossible to have a team with the same culture as Man City, because Man City are run top to bottom the right way, something that the culture of Man United used to have in the past without the Glazers. And yes, they had an unbelievable era with Sir Alex, something that was unique in the history of the Premier League. But ever since then,
In the history of football.
in the history, definitely in the history of football. But what I'm saying is, you need to put the blame on the Glazers, mate, because you're saying that Erik Ten Hag was in a position in life in Ajax to refuse Man United, a job that is once in a lifetime for many managers. He shouldn't. And I think if Erik Ten Hag literally comes public, if he leaves one day and he says, look, I left, but look, the problems that were happening inside the club, no support from the top, the Glazers have to be involved more with the culture of the team. If not, they're going to be selling the club. Eventually, definitely, because the results will not come. The Man United fan base is being exploited right now, in my point of view. Jersey sales, no commitment from players that are not there for the passion, something that at Arsenal, you can say that it's different right now with Arteta. That you need to do that to change the culture. So,
Yeah. Well, I don't want to. Right, I don't want to go down like the bid route. I understand that maybe culture has to change
Kroenke.
with all of that.
Yeah, I don't see Erik Ten Hag
Well, you
with
see
the
Kroenke
Glazers.
with but they're Kroenke. People want Kroenke out. I know I want him out of Colorado
he's
Rapids.
changed.
That's for dang sure. But
the
you know,
Kroenke changed their approach.
No, he's
the
given more
people's
control.
response.
He's given more control to his kids. He's given more control to, he's backed away
But
some.
they
Yes.
changed.
But the Glazers. But no. But listen. For him, if Ten Hag ever walks away and has that convenient little morsel of but the Glazers, I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. Then I understand, like, if Manchester United comes, but if you know that they have a cancerous ownership structure, then why? I mean, Ten Hag is good enough to get a a job elsewhere. I understand the storied nature of Manchester United's history, but history ain't history if you're telling me that the Glazers are always going to be the reason. It's the reason Solskjaer failed. It's the reason Rangnick failed. It's the reason Ten Hag failed. It's the not failed. He has not failed yet. I'm just saying I don't want it to become a crutch if the Glazers aren't getting anywhere.
It is a crutch.
But listen, $1 billion has been spent on this team over how many years, right? So from what?
Like, you say Todd Boehly's a crutch, but you don't say the Glazers are a crutch for Man United?
No, I think Todd Boehly is the problem at Chelsea.
And the Glazers are the problem at Man United at this point in time.
Todd Boehly blew up a team that did not need to be fully blown up. And then he went on a buying spree to buy for the sake of buying. Now, he bought very talented players, but not talented players in the form of Premier League ready day one, bolt them together, get this 11 moving, and we're going to be at the, in the top 4, top 3 by the end of the season. The United has had years and years and years of the Glazers, right? The Glazers they've been here. They were here when Solskjaer finished second, right? They were here when they won the Carabao Cup last season. But they are not the cause for internal strife or whatever the heck is going on with Sancho, with Antony, right? They're not the cause of that. And I'm not defending them. I'm not. I do agree. There's no way. How can you blame? How can you blame owners for what is currently going on the pitch for Manchester United? You can't blame owners for that. They spent 70, 80 million on Højlund, did they not?
They did. I completely agree.
They did spend and I know it doesn't come straight from Glazers.
And to say that the Glazers don't have an impact on the pitch is ridiculous, Bretson. You know why? Because the technical director, who appoints it? It's the Glazers. A technical director, what does he do? He filters the transfers. Transfers that Man United have been doing more wrong than right. And Erik ten Hag has a clear impact in the new transfer era at Man United. Yes, he's got Antony wrong. Yes, he's got like Lisandro Martinez, I think is right. But some people think he's not. Yeah. Maybe Amrabat is wrong too. But it's Erik ten Hag's pattern. There's no pattern but Erik ten Hag in that sense. So I think there's a clear problem even with not Erik ten Hag making the decisions from transfer end. Like, they should get someone. And with Ralph Rangnick, when they brought him in, I was like hoping that Ralph Rangnick was going to stay there. Because another person, another mind that understands football could have a clear impact in how they play with the transfers.
No, I agree.
But let's see.
I agree. The movement of him to a technical director, which is where he excels, Rangnick, even though he's excelling as the Austrian coach, that would be nice. I just do think, I think it's become more of a crutch in the last few years. Now, I'm completely in agreement that the Glazers need to move on. But, like, you can't force that because this is an investment. This is a publicly traded investment, a publicly floated investment in the United States. So for them, it's easy. The boogeyman, it's easy to go to bed and say it's the rich people. But when it comes down to it, there are also enough mistakes that need to be righted, enough mistakes that need to be, or enough players that need to be nurtured from here on out that if you believe that Ten Hag cannot do anything moving forward, can't finish top 3 again, top 4 again, because of the Glazers, or can never win the league again because of the Glazers, then somebody's got to convince Ten Hag that he needs to join the ranks. He needs to join the ranks of rebelling against the Glazers. You guys need to get him out. This is like a full-blown revolution if that's the case, right? Because everything's going to be in spite of the Glazers, right? So that's kind of like where it gets tiresome for me. I hear it all the time, like Glazers this, Glazers that. Who gives a crap? There's enough to fix on field right now that I know Ten Hag's busier than all get out. He's probably not thinking about the Glazers at night.
I'm starting to think it's cultural. I'm used to, in my country, seeing a president like Rui Costa, someone that knows football, Pinto Costa at Porto, someone that knows football. And I think if those people weren't at the top in those respective clubs, the clubs would be run a lot different. So, and it's not on the rich people, Bretson. There's rich people that have a good impact in football. And the Man City people, they are rich. The Newcastle people, they are rich. The Cronkies, they are rich and change their approach. But the Glazers, they're rich too. And they're not changing their approach in Man United with due time. And that's going to be a huge problem if Man United are going to win the Premier League but once again, that I don't see happening close with Guardiola and Man City at the helm and other teams improving. But let us know, what are you thinking, people? Do you agree with me
Yeah.
that it's the Glazers? What do you think is the biggest problem at Man United? Let us know what you're thinking, and please go bold with the like button too. With Man United, with the Premier League, though, I wanted to give a shout out to Brighton. Brighton win 3-1 another game. They were losing 1-0. I was quite surprised with that. But I want to give a shout out to Baleba. Okay, what a player Baleba is. Like, he's replacing Caicedo, and you can see coming off the bench, great tackling, great interceptions, and a player that is going to develop with De Zerbi. Another one. And you might be right, Bretson, saying Estupiñán is the best left back in the Premier League, because Estupiñán is going so bold, mate.
He is, dude. He is, and it's great to see. But yeah, Brighton also, I think what was more the part of the character of this win I was happy about was, hey, first ever European game midweek. They lose. They get upset, I guess you could probably go out and venture a guess to say that. And they lost at the Amex, and then they come back and they win this one. But it was Matoma time. Right? 2 goals in relatively quick succession. That second half was essentially all his. And they're back to winning and in the top 5, top 4 of the Premier League. So it's just a very, very different vibe. And De Zerbi just, he's just got his influence on everything there. And it's a wonderful thing to see. So we'll see. They've got some stiffer tests coming up.
And Billy
But good
Gilmore
shout out.
too. Billy Gilmore's improving a lot more, and this season Billy Gilmore's seen as a starter. So big shout out to that. And Ansu Fati coming off the bench. Let's see if we can see the Ansu Fati that we saw at Barcelona. But it's still a wishful thought, and we wish to see him doing much better. But let us know, what did you want us to talk about in the Premier League? Tell us topics. Do you want start bench sells of the Premier League edition? Let us know in the comment section on YouTube, because yes, always keeping it interesting with different topics. That's a good way of doing things. But yes,
Sure.
La Liga time. La Liga, it's going bold, and predictions are happening right here. And I'm going to start by saying, I think definitely Barcelona are favorites to win La Liga, and that remontada with João Felix and Cancelo highly involved. I told you the Felix-Lewandowski duo was going to be one of the best to watch, and he is delivering exactly just that. João Felix and João Cancelo at Barcelona, 4 games played, 4 wins. Unreal that Felix has 3 goals, 2 and 2 assists, and he can always be mentioned as one of the best players on the pitch when he's playing with Barcelona. Clear intention to prove all the haters wrong. Barcelona.
Yeah. I just, I'm going to take the other side of the coin here for you. Where the Joaos have excelled, absolutely. And I don't think anyone expected, I did not expect them to have as quick and as succinct of a influence right away. But my goodness, have I been proven wrong. I mean, Felix had 2 goals and assists versus Royal Antwerp. That was a butt whooping. And then he comes back, and I think he was the one that jump started the remontada. And I believe that this is the first La Liga squad. Barcelona was the first La Liga squad in 14 years to win when down at least 2 goals past the 80th minute. I mean, you're talking about leaving it late. They played crappily for the most part for the first 80 minutes of the game, and then decided to turn it on. And I agree with you. That is an intangible. That is something that is a squad chemistry thing that you absolutely will need to defend your La Liga title. But at the same time, you can play the game, the other side of the coin, other side of the pillow, whatever way you want to put it, Alex. You can play the game and say, why were they in that spot in the first place, right? And if you get in that spot against, it could be, yeah. Gavi, who early on this season, people were like, why do people like Gavi? Well, that's why you like Gavi, because he wears his heart on his sleeve, He literally jump-started that whole thing, and I'm 100% in agreement with you, Alex. But, you obviously do that against Real Madrid. You do that, what is it, October 28th? Is that when they next play?
Oh, yes.
Right? The first El Clasico?
Yes.
You do that, you're probably not coming back when it comes down to that. Or maybe you do it against instead of Celta Vigo, you do it against the Real Sociedad or something of that nature. Maybe you don't come back. So you can make that argument, but I 100% agree with you. It has been masterful piecing together of a roster amidst obviously their financial inconsistencies or their financial headaches that they have to kind of navigate through. It has been absolutely masterful, and they have been wonderful at also giving chances to guys like Lamine Yamal. Days after Lamine Yamal was named La Liga's U23 Player of the Month, Alex, he goes on to become the second youngest player in UEFA Champions League history, and he's only 2 months older than Moukoko, right? When Moukoko became the youngest player in Champions League history. So just little things like that, yes, Xavi deserves credit. Laporta absolutely deserves credit. But in the end, I still think Real Madrid is built to win this back this season. So I will still pick Real Madrid when all is said and done. But I think we're going to get a first real data point on October 28th.
Well, and a big data point, too, would be the Champions League game. 5-0 win to Royal Antwerp. Yeah. Something that last season, they weren't as confident in the Champions League, too. It was a more difficult group. I agree with you. And Porto game against Barcelona, that will be interesting. But yes, Lewandowski has 7 games, 6 goals, 5 assists. João Felix is meant to assist João Felix. He's here to assist. And that duo is honestly, when you watch them play, it looks like it's meant to be. I really think Felix is proving people wrong. And I'm going to say this could be a bold statement for the people at home, but I think Barcelona fans do agree with me. Since Dani Alves, there hasn't been a right back with as much potential to be so solid than João Cancelo. Sergi Roberto wasn't that. He's versatile, but he's not that. Serginho Dest was not that. Nelson Smith was not that. Cancelo can be one of the best fullbacks in the world at Barcelona with Balde in the other side. So that is a key aspect that Barca has changed this season. And the second thing I got to say too is Gavi. Gavi is unique. The tools he has offensively, defensively, I honestly think he's irreplaceable. He's getting to that stage, and he's only 19 years old. Gavi will be a generational talent for Barcelona and for Spain. The assist to Cancelo, that is pure vision of a player that only Gavi could have done in that given moment, in my point of view. There's a complete understanding in that sense. And Xavi's record in La Liga is 70 matches, 50 wins, 10 draws, and 10 losses. Considering everything that's happening in this team, that is so bold. And they will be back-to-back La Liga winners, in my point of view. Improving players like Gavi, Lamine Yamal, Balde, Ronald Araújo. So many quality players. And Conde, much better this season.
Yeah. Well, I also think credit needs to be given to Ter Stegen because he definitely had a few saves. Like Celta, they could have, I wouldn't say iced that game, but they could have had a couple more goals in that game before that 8-minute ridiculous remontada where they scored 3 goals in 8 minutes to win the thing. But Ter Stegen kept them in it. And I just want to ask it, Pedri's out. Frankie de Jong rolled, it looks like a high ankle sprain for him, and he might be at a race to be back for El Clasico. Now, I think he'll 100% be back for El Clasico. I don't think there's an issue there.
Mate. 7 weeks. It could be 7 weeks.
Yeah, is that what they're saying? Oh my. Okay, so the initial tweet I saw was only like 4 weeks. So 7 weeks. Ooh. So you think? I mean, they got Gundogan. Oriol is playing very well. You think that's material? I mean, he's very central to how Xavi plays.
It's true.
So. It's going to be interesting.
I think that game is going to be so interesting because Frankie de Jong, as you said, very important. But I hope Pedri's going to be back in time to play that game. And yes, it's a lot of variables are changing. But like Real Madrid haven't been playing with Vinicius Junior. Real Madrid don't have Courtois. Eder Militão. Real Madrid have their own demons to face. But yes, they're playing great football with Jude Bellingham. Jude Bellingham that scores a late winner against Union Berlin. Once again, the whole Bernabeu does the celebration. Iconic already in such a short period of time, generation, and has elevated himself towards being a Galactico. Jude Bellingham. But yes, mate, Vitor Roque, I just want to say last thing with Barca is Vitor Roque, that injury. I just hope that when it comes to January, Vitor Roque is back and healthy, because this season, Vitor Roque has 20 goals and 8 assists. This is a pure striker, such a quality forward that can compete for the place against Lewandowski that's 35. He can learn so much, and they need players like that. Barcelona. And Dembele, I just wanted to say 0 goals and 0 assists. Dembele. This
brutal,
is
man.
Too good now.
The PSG's still got some soul searching to do. But listen, I want to echo your sentiments about Vitor Roque, because I think the more heartbreaking thing for me is, yes, he's got a next chapter ahead with Barcelona. I'm pretty certain he's going to kill it in a good way with Barcelona. But the more heartbreaking thing for me is, for him, that injury is likely the final impression that he has. Right, in the Brasileirão, right? That's probably the last minutes he plays, because the Brasileirão season ends, I believe, in December, and he's looking at 3 months plus on the sideline. So wishing him not a quick recovery. I wish him a full recovery. Take your time, get back, and I think he's going to be a massive piece of Xavi's arsenal in the future. And I shouldn't say Arsenal, because that's another team, but you know what I mean when I'm saying that, because he's got a wonderful amount of opportunity ahead of him. But
you're saying another team. The City group have a big impact right now in La Liga too, with Girona, as it seems.
Girona
that has a player named Savio that, just like Doku, he's a pure winger. Savio and Doku are pure wingers, and both in City group. Savio has 2 goals, 2 assists in his last 2 games, and please start watching this left-footed winger that has a lot of creativity and is willing to play so much. And at Girona, he has the time and the way to develop that he is. I wanted to give a shout out.
Yeah, and for those that don't know, this is actually Girona is a Catalan club. They are about an hour away from Barcelona. I have been to their stadium. I have been to the city. It's a small city, but it's absolutely beautiful. And for those that might not know, if you watch Game of Thrones, a lot of Game of Thrones was actually filmed there for some of the seasons. But Girona, in and of itself, this stadium is so very unassuming. It's small. This is not Camp Nou, but you are on top of the field. And it is so cool to see this, Alex. For them to be unbeaten in 6 games, they were top of the table for a second. They have scored as many goals as, I believe, let me get this right, scored as many goals as Barcelona, and they've only conceded 1. So Catalonian clubs are absolutely, front and center in La Liga this season, and it's absolutely wonderful to see. But Savio is 19 years old, winger. He's part of City Football Group, for those that people don't know, right? He's on loan technically from Troy, which is a satellite club of City Football Group. And last season, he couldn't get a sniff of the field at PSV Eindhoven. So to see him thrust into it here with Girona and to be just tearing it up, 2 goals, 2 assists in his last 2 games, it's great to see. But you also got Jan Couto, another City Football Group player, playing right back for them. You've got a former NYCFC kid, Yangel Herrera. He's not really a kid anymore, but he was a heck of a player when he was in Major League Soccer. And you've also got Daley Blind and Eric Garcia, Blind, who severed ties with Ajax, right, last season, and Eric Garcia, who severed ties with Barcelona, only to move to another Catalonian club. So it's a wonderful piecing together, and it might not last, but it is great to see this hot start. So I'm really, really glad you brought them up, because if you weren't going to do it, I was going to do it.
And they did sell Tati Castellanos, the star striker, Girona.
They did.
And they're having a better season, at least starting. Great to mention. 6 games unbeaten, and the Catalunya teams are playing wonderful football. And Eric Garcia, that's such an interesting one. And Blind too, it's always shocking. But you said Savio, and I wanted to give a connection here. That La Liga this season has 3 wonder kids that are special left-footed players. It's Savio, that we see at Girona. It's Lamine Yamal, that we see at Barcelona at 16. And it's Takefusa Kubo at Real Sociedad with 4 goals scored and a remontada that he had a high impact against Getafe. This is a special player, and Kubo and Mitoma for Japan, they're one of the best duos internationally playing at wing. And they're both gonna be like what in the next 5 years playing together. That is a great scene right there with the Japan national team. And yeah, Real Sociedad did draw 2 to Inter. So Real Sociedad does a remontada against Getafe. They draw against Inter. They have players like Oyarzabal, Brahis Mendes, what a player he is. Kubu that is going bold. Pay attention to this team because they have great players. Do you agree with me, Bretton?
Yep. I 100% agree with you, and you mentioned all the big players. The only other player I'd throw in there is Mikel Merino. He was once on the books at Newcastle back in the day, and I only wonder, man, if he was at Newcastle now. But Merino, who has unfortunately struggled with injuries as of late, is also back healthy, and he was part of that Getafe win. That was a lot closer than it should have been. But to bring it back to Takefusa Kubo, because you asked me a very poignant question last week, whether or not he would be able to go in and slot in at Real Madrid and have a high impact. And I said, I don't think he's good enough to be. I have a feeling that by the end of the season, he's going to prove me wrong. I really do. I have a feeling he's going to prove me wrong because even though he's slight, even though, he's a different kind of Arda Güler-ish, except he's older than Arda Güler in that sense. But he has, even in the games that they've lost, like the game against Real Madrid, Kubo impressed. He was wonderful, off the ball, on the ball. He didn't wind up on the score sheet, but he was one of the better players on the field. That was not always there with Takefusa Kubo. He has barely had one stinker this season. Every game, he has been very impactful, even if it did not wind up getting his team the 3. So I am starting to turn. It's only been a week, but I'm starting to turn my tide on that thought process with Kubo, and I hope it happens because my goodness, Japan, Kubo and Mitoma, and a bevy of other wonderful players. Japan is going to be the strongest Asian country for many, many, many years to come. Many years to come.
Fucks right there with what you're saying, and yes, Kubo. Just for the people at home to understand, Real Madrid's situation with Kubo is this: if Kubo leaves for the release clause, Real Madrid will be receiving 27 million. But if Real Madrid wants to keep Kubo, they'll have to pay 33 million right now. That is the option. And I think Real Madrid at the end of the season, they will pay for a right winger like this that gives so many guarantees. It's so reminiscent of Odegaard. What we see from Kubo, and we see Odegaard now as a world-class player, 24, and Kubo's 21. So I think that Real Madrid will be doing this. I think they'll stay with him. And it's interesting that you're mentioning it's interesting. But yes, with mentioning Real Madrid, naturally we gotta mention the big competition, the Champions League. And look, it was a special Champions League campaign with the Wonder Kids highly involved. And I wanted to give a special shout out to Rocco Simic, that when he gets the Man of the Match award, he spends time, I think it was like 1 hour, in front of the hotel speaking to me. I know it's 5 years, Rocco, but thank you so much for everything that you have given to us. And keep going bold, mate, because you are going to the Euros. You deserve it. And if Rocco Simic doesn't go to the Euros, he's being robbed. He's much better than any other option that is ahead of him in the Croatian national team, in my point of view. Musa? No,
fair enough.
Not ahead of Rocco. He's unpredictable. Look at that assist to Klauk against Benfica. What a game from him. What a game.
Well, here's what I love about Rocco. It has not been a linear development process for him, right? He went on loan last season to the Super League in Switzerland, and it didn't. I think he would probably agree it didn't work out the way he wanted it to, but I'm sure he got valuable experience. He comes. He did say that. Okay, yeah, and he comes back in, and you've got Karim Konate, you've got a healthy Sekou Koita, you've got some very good options for this Red Bull Salzburg team. And he comes right back in and come on, scores a goal, scores an assist, Champions League player of the match. I mean, I'd die happy after that, but I know he's got much more ambitions ahead. And I just have to say, when it comes to that Salzburg team, Rocco Simic was just a part of it, but that was the youngest team, 21.5 year average, the youngest team in Champions League history. Okay, and I know we don't want to talk about Estadio de Luz, and Benfica losing just by nature of where we're basically located and how many times we've been to that stadium, but it was a wonderful win for them, a historic win. I'm pretty certain Benfica will bounce back, but I can't even comprehend this, man. 21.5 years average. Their goalie was 27. So if you back that out, their field players, you're looking at like 21 even or lower than that. And I do have to say one thing about Salzburg.
Mm-hmm.
That midfield has one of the highest ceilings that I can absolutely think of from here on out, and I want to make sure that I get all the names right here. You've got Gorna Duath, right? You've got Matisse Kjærgaard, and Gorna Duath was brought in from Saint-Étienne. He was part of that carnage. Yep. And Gorna Duath, you've got Kjærgaard, and you have Mads Bidstrup, 22 years old, who used to be on the books, I believe, at Brentford, and just didn't make his way through, but has always been considered insanely highly talented. So a very Danish feel to that midfield. And they've got Luka Susic coming in off the bench. It's unbelievable. So highly talented and such a massive ceiling on that crew. And I just have to bring that up.
No, you saying Luka Susic coming off the bench for Oscar Glock, that's a luxury. If people don't know, Susic wears the number 10, and he wears it for the right reasons. He's very complete offensively, and Luka Susic is a great Croatian name that you must remember, a player that I would like to see too going to the Euros. But you touched base with a player that me and Rocco spent at least 5 to 10 minutes talking, and it's Gorna Duath. Gorna Duath, nice. The versatility he offers, the mobility, how fast he is, and how good he is in duels defensively. 13 to 14 million for what they spent, Red Bull Salzburg, to Saint-Étienne. That is going to be a bargain in the next 2 years. Yeah. This is a player that can go immediately to the Premier League and look really, really good. That is a wonderful way of saying things. And pressing forward, Rocco Simic, that is what he is. If you do not know him, he was pressing all game. And Karim Konate with Rocco Simic, with how comfortable they can drop to the wings. Like, that's why they don't play wingers. Because between the lines, clock. And then you have two strikers that are comfortable with ball and can move the center backs so much to drop to the wing, that offers so much space that Benfica weren't used to. Like, the biggest problem in that game of Benfica, in my tactical analysis, it was the space from the midfield to the defense. And that is something Salzburg, with those long balls to Glauc, to Rocco Simic, they tried to exploit and have one-on-one duels with the center backs that were happening very often. Otamendi, Morato, and Antonio Silva, such an unfortunate moment that he didn't do it on purpose. That red card wasn't on purpose.
Oh, and he'll bounce back.
He will.
No, that was not on purpose at all. In fact, that was the most unfortunate. When it happened in the game, it was so unfortunate, and he'll bounce back. I'm not worried about Benfica at all, and I'm certainly not worried about Antonio Silva. But listen, Salzburg was only able to get that done, and I think this plays into what you were talking about tactically and what you and Rocco Simic probably chatted about. But Amar Dedic, he's the captain at 22 in this squad, and I think you're going to see him get picked up very, very, very soon. And I know there are quite a few people that are now taking like the negative side of like the Salzburg Red Bull pyramid, right? Simply because, yes, they're right. From a competitive standpoint, the Austrian Bundesliga, it's just like not whether or not Salzburg is going to win. It's like by how much and how early in the season it's going to happen. But as a wonder kid factory, as a place for young players to play, and even some of these guys, they get moved to different teams like Lask. I think that Salzburg's ascendance and Red Bull getting it right in terms of their developmental structure, I think it has lifted the rest of the Bundesliga, maybe not in full team quality, but definitely in developmental quality all across the board, because Lask is good. We always look at Sturm Graz, right, where Højlund came from originally. Exactly. We look at them as a place to farm strikers, basically. So there's a lot of really good developmental stuff happening in the Bundesliga, even if you know what's going to happen every year in the Austrian
And
Bundesliga.
you focus on development of players. I completely agree that's a huge effect. And you say clubs, it's Liefering, Red Bull Salzburg, Red Bull Leipzig.
Yeah, true.
That tends to be like the course of action if a player is quality for those respective teams, and even with managers and directors of football. Roger Schmidt was at Red Bull Salzburg a couple of years ago, and now he manages to have his style of play at Benfica. Now, Matthias Jesel, I think I'm saying it the right way. He goes to Al Ahly, he gets paid a ton, and he's developed at Red Bull Salzburg. And even technical directors like Christian Fröchtl, I think he went to Chelsea, and he was developed with the Red Bull Group too. So the impact of the Red Bull Group in football is unreal. A bit like Formula 1 with like Max Verstappen always winning. That's what we can say that Red Bull Salzburg do in the Austrian League. They tend to always win. And it's not going to change because they are willing to spend money that other teams just can't. Pavlovic was, 8-9 million? He played terrifically against Benfica. And that's a Champions League player. That's not an Austrian League player. That's a Champions League player, Pavlovic. And they're the only team that can do those signings.
No, and Samson Baidu is the other one that has to be mentioned. I think we've mentioned the entire 11 here. But yeah, 19 years old, and you're right. He was Liefering on the way up, and he's worked his way into it. And I think he's going to be another center back that people are going to be fighting over. But I could see him going from from Salzburg to Leipzig. I guess the only negative I have to say about Salzburg is who's in charge of him. I mean, Gerhard Struber had time in Major League Soccer with Red Bull New York. It hasn't necessarily worked out, but they're playing decent football, and they got a massively historic win with the youngest squad ever. So I got to give him a little credit, but I don't necessarily think that Struber is going to be the guy that should be in charge of Salzburg for years and years and years to come. But still, a historic win. I only sucks for all the Portuguese supporters or Benfica supporters that listen to us that it had to be at the hands of Benfica. But again, I'm not worried about Benfica. They'll be fine.
I think I like the manager. I think he went with the right game plan. And from what I saw, I think he's looking good. But let's wait and see what's going to happen in the future with Red Bull Salzburg. But this is interesting. So with the Champions League, in the Champions League talk, I want to refer to Inter. I think Inter deserve a big shout. Inter that have 5 games, they have 5 wins, they have 14 goals scored, and they have 1 suffered. Only 1 suffered. And the left side of the defense of Inter, in my point of view, is one of the best in the world with Di Marco and Bastoni. 2 terrific left-footed players that would start for every single team worldwide. They are underrated because they are damn good. Don't you agree, Breton?
Yeah, I do. I absolutely 100% do. And Lautaro has... I mean, their attack is pretty dang good too. But what was this, man? Come on. They only managed a draw? They only managed a draw in Champions League?
It's true.
I know.
And San Sebastian, I think Sociedad will be a very difficult team to beat. But like in Serie A, Inter is like saying, we want to win it once again. But saying this, with Inter's form in Serie A, I think right now the Champions League, if we have like a poll, a power ranking of the Champions League right now, Man City's number 1. We both agree, right? Barca and Bayern Munich, I'd say they're number 2 with Real Madrid too in that contention. You agree with that?
Yeah. I'd agree with that.
And then in the under poll, Inter Milan. I think Inter Milan are the underrated team that can surprise the world and go again to a final back-to-back seasons. And that, if that happens, that would be so bold. So Champions League biggest contenders right now. It's Man City favorite back-to-back to win it. Then we have Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, Barcelona, and I think Inter can be considered that 5th team that can surprise the world in the Champions League. So I just wanted to mention that because Bayern Munich too, they're not playing bad football, right, Burton?
No, they're not. Even while other contenders, I guess you can say, and 7-0 was alarming. I guess it wasn't that. It is Bochum. But yeah, no, Harry Kane looks at home. I think we can all agree with that. And Harry Kane, I think, has basically replaced Robert Lewandowski.
Fuck. Harry Kane has 8 goals, 4 assists, involved in 12 goals in his first 7 starts for Bayern Munich. So I completely agree with you. He's the best replacement, and he's English, okay? So put some respect on his name, because Harry Kane is doing just what he's meant to do.
But Alex, I have to bring this up because he's not even the top scorer in the Bundesliga right now, and I think we need to at least say his name, but before it gets lost in the shuffle, before maybe, I don't know, he comes back down from this, Serhou Guirassy, I believe he's a French player, came over from Stade Rennais, I want to say, came over on loan last season when his opportunities there got relatively thin. He has already this season in 5 starts, 10 goals.
Ooh.
10 goals in 5 starts.
That's
10.
That's a great start,
I mean,
mate.
I know, and Harry Kane is 8. We expect that, but this guy's got 10. He's got in 5 starts. He's 27. He's not French. I believe he might have been born in France, but he's Ghanaian, and he's got 21 goals in 25 starts since he joined them on loan last season. So whether or not he's going to actually give Harry Kane a run for his money in the Bundesliga Golden Boot race, I don't know. But as of right now, it's like Haaland, Lewandowski all over again, I guess you can say.
I like how you're mentioning that, and that's a really interesting name that people like. Remember, okay? Put down below who did you know this player? I'm quite shook. I want to give a shout out to Matthijs Tel. Matthijs Tel, that in his last 6 games, he's got zero starts, 73 minutes played, 4 goals scored, and 1 assist. He's putting himself in the talks to get more starts, and he's balling out. Matthijs Tel, gotta respect him, not going on loan. I want to give a special shout out to Boniface in the Bundesliga. Boniface always is scoring. Boniface at 7 games, 8 goals, 3 assists, and in such a short period of time to be so good makes Bayer Leverkusen be more of a contender than maybe a Borussia Dortmund. And even Xavi Simons. Xavi Simons with 5 assists and 3 goals in his last 4 games. Xavi Simons right now is one of the best youngsters in the world, and watch RB Leipzig play. Not just in the Bundesliga, but in the Champions League too. Man of the match, Xavi Simons.
Fact. And Xavi Simons, I just have to ask you this right now, okay? It might be too soon to say this, but should we start talking about Xavi Simons the same way we've been talking about Jamal Musiala? Right? Wirtz, Pedri, Gavi, even in some respects.
I mean, Wirtz right now. Wirtz is playing great football.
Okay.
But I think Xavi Simons, from what he's doing at RB Leipzig right now, if there's like a start bench cell with Florian Wirtz, Xavi Simons, and Jamal Musiala playing right now, I think Musiala is special. I think you always have to start Jamal Musiala. I would literally bench Xavi Simons for what he's doing in such a short period of time. Going to the Eredevisie last season, doing this now at RB Leipzig, 5 assists, 3 goals in 4 games. And I would sell Florian Wirtz, that he was injured a lot of last season. So I think he's great, but Xavi Simons is putting himself in the talk of being an elite midfielder, a player like De Bruyne maybe in 5 to 10 years' time with the consistency.
Right. And we'll see at the end of the season whether or not he can have a Musiala-like season, like last season. And maybe by the end of the season, we might be talking about him in the exact same breath as Musiala. But what makes it more impressive for me, right, with Xavi Simons is the fact that there were these he's had millions of social media followers since he was like 12 years old. He's had plenty of attention and plenty of room to not meet such astronomical expectations of somebody that gets that amount of attention. In fact, the majority of people that get that amount of attention when they're 12, 13, 15 years old, they wind up, we call that the Freddie Adu effect. They wind up not necessarily, going on to do it. Xavi Simons has done it wherever he has gone so far. And the fact that he is already this integral to an RB Leipzig team that is incredibly entertaining to watch, with an incredible amount of turnover, the fact that he is already so integral to the way that they play just shows you how, respect needs to be put on that hustle and that never not being hungry type of mentality that he must have had all these years. It is easy to rest on your laurels when you have, 1 million plus followers, right? And he proves he wants it done. He wants it in the form of accolades. He wants it in the form of trophies. And I think he's going to get it, man. He goes to PSV, right? Makes himself completely indispensable, gets a move to RB Leipzig, already makes himself indispensable, and I think he'll go back to PSG if they don't turn him over and sell him off after buying him back for 6 million or so. I think he's going to make himself indispensable there in the future, and he's already worked his way into an incredibly promising Netherlands team. So I just love the story of Xavi Simons. I love a lot of the stories coming out of the Bundesliga right now, but Xavi Simons is top of my list at this moment. It's very cool.
It's really cool, and I completely agree with a lot that you just said, okay? RB Leipzig are a terrific team to watch, but let us know, what do you think about Xavi Simons? What do you think about the situation? And in the Champions League too. Let us know, what are you thinking about this? Before we go to the last topic, I just want to mention Eredevisie briefly with Feyenoord and Ajax. What is happening at Ajax, mate? This is so sad to see. The match has to be suspended because the refs, the fans are just like, they're sending torches to the pitch. That is so sad to see that this is the level and the embarrassment that Ajax are right now. It's the management of Ajax these past few years has been shambolic. The downgrade of players is more than evident. Players like Edson Alvarez, Kudus, Tadic, Julian Timmer, Lisandro Martinez, Calvin Bassey, Anthony, Haller, Onana, all weren't replaced. And they let them go, and they didn't replace them. And now they're showing the consequences of bad decisions like that, in my point of view.
It's tough to watch, frankly. It was Santiago Jimenez once again showed that he was the king striker of the Eredivisie, and rightfully so. He had 2 goals in the span of 18 minutes, adding an assist, and then the flares started coming in. It is tough to watch, but it just goes to show that the ball is in PSV Eindhoven's court. The ball is in Feyenoord's court for this to become a decades-long fight for the Eredivisie title at the top. Now, I'm not going to write Ajax off completely, but as of right now, hopefully they've hit the bottom, because I feel for the academy. The academy has still been a factory, and they might just need to get back to that. They might just need to take a year or two to recenter, but I don't think that's the way it operates. And certainly that's not the way the fans want it to operate. They expect to be top of the table, and I think that's why you see this disgraceful showing of flares on the pitch and an abandoning of the game. But yeah, no, in the Eredivisie, you're 100% right. But then you counter that with the positives at PSV and Feyenoord, and still a great place to go play some football.
It's true. PSV are currently with 5 wins, 0 losses. Players like Noah Lang, Joey Veerman that is balling out.
Yeah.
Joey Veerman with 3 goals. Joey Veerman with 2 goals and 4 assists. And Noah Lang with 3 goals and 1 assist, for PSV, looking terrific. And Feyenoord, like Santiago Jimenez, you said it. Santiago Jimenez, in his last 5 Eredevisie games, he's got 8 goals scored and 2 assists. He will be the most expensive Mexican player ever leaving Feyenoord with Arne Slot. Completely agree, and I think that. And Igor Paixão is underrated, okay? He's behind Santiago Jimenez. He's got 35 games, 21 starts, 12 goals, and 7 assists. Could we maybe see Igor Paixão na Seleção Brasileira? We never know, because we even see now Caio Henrique being called up. So that is an interesting thing, I think, to say too. And yeah, I think we pointed base with the Eredevisie. But let us know anything that we have missed in this podcast. But we have a last topic here. A combined 11. We're going to be trying to be fast with this. To have one combined 11, between us. Who would you like to do, Breton? Combined 11.
We'll do Portugal, Spain, right? Let's do Portugal, Spain.
Portugal, Spain combined 11 time. There's
the Iberian Peninsula.
Yes. Who's going to win in the Iberian Peninsula per position? And at goalkeeper, I'm going to say, I'm going to go national. Diogo Costa is my goalkeeper between Portugal and Spain. Do you agree with me, Breton?
I don't. I like Unai Simon. I'm gonna pick Unai Simon from Athletic Bilbao. I just think he's been so far to start the season a whole lot more sure-handed. So Unai Simon is my goalkeeper. I'm putting the nod to Spain on this one. But there's Kepa. You didn't even think Kepa?
David Raya,
Now Real
maybe.
Madrid's number one?
I go
Yeah?
no Kepa.
David
no.
Raya?
Kepa, no. Kepa, no. I'm not sold on Kepa, but Unai Simon, yes, I agree with you that he's a great player, and maybe David Raya could be getting a call up soon, like going up the ranks with Arsenal now.
And just a side statement here, it is nice to see Jose Sa back playing decent football again. It is nice to see him as a very net positive to that Wolves team. But it was tough going for a little while for him there. But do you remember that? That was just early last season when he had that run of form, or was that 2 seasons ago where he was just unbelievable from a goals prevented standpoint for them? But yeah, no, I agree. It's between Diogo Costa and Unai Simon for both, and I just I got to be a little controversial and pick Unai Simon. So goalkeeper, Spain, in my opinion.
Oh, mate, but like the defense of Portugal combined against Spain, I'm gonna say my defense of Portugal combined with Spain, I'm gonna go with goalie Diogo Costa. It's sad that I'm not picking at the left Nuno Mendes, but right now Alejandro Balde is playing better, so I'll go Alejandro Balde left back. I'll go Ruben Dias, best center back in the world. Definitely one of them. And I'll go bold and say, we're going to Sal Inácio and António Silva. We've got a luxury center-back duo or triple, okay? 0 goals suffered until now. And my right back, I think it's João Cancelo, okay? He's balling out at Barcelona, and João Cancelo's going to ball out with Portugal, too, in the Euros.
Yeah, and he'd only really be up against Pedro Porro, Carvajal, right? So yeah, Cancelo's got that in the book. I agree with you. Nuno Mendes, it must be said for those that haven't been following it, it is tough. It's a hamstring injury, right? Issue, and he's been out since late April. So we're now going on about 6 months, and I hope he's back training soon. I hope he's back, but it's a pretty serious injury. So yeah, Alejandro Balde I have at the left. I've got Ruben Diaz, and then I completely cheated here, Alex. 100% cheated. Listen, Rodri has played center back for Spain, so in order to make room in the midfield, Rodri's my center back. He's my center back, along with Ruben Diaz.
Choice. That makes sense, though. I do agree with you, though. Okay. If we go with that way, I'm going to change on the spot. I agree with you. Rodri has played center back for Spain, and he's played well. I think he's one of the players that had the most passes ever for Spain, or for an international player. So yeah, I'm gonna change it on the spot. So my combined Portugal and Spain defense, I'll go with Diogo Costa, Balde right now ahead of Nuno Mendes, Sad, Ruben Dias, Rodri, and Cancelo. Thank you, Breton. Inspired by you.
There you go.
To put Rodri at center back. I agree with that choice. But
so I'm really interested. Yeah, exactly. I'm really, really interested. I just think he's doing it again for Fulham this season. He's done it so far for Portugal. This is why I felt like I needed to put Rodri at center back, was because I wanted to make room for João Palhinha as my CDM with Pedri and Bruno in front of him. So that's my midfield.
Pedri, Bruno, and João Palhinha with Rodri at center back. I agree with you. I go the same way. Bruno Fernandes, I think, for Portugal is the best midfielder right now playing in form. Pedri is special, and it just saddens me I don't put Gavi, okay? But I think that is the best midfield combined right now between the two national teams. We agree with that. But let us know if you're agreeing, and put down below your combined 11 until now, too. So, with the 3 forwards in a 4-3-3 formation, Rafael Leão or João Felix at the left, I think, should be in the combined Portugal and Spain 11. I think Cristiano Ronaldo is still striker. He's 147 goals away of getting 1,000 goals, and I put Bernardo Silva at right wing. Special player at Man City. Do you agree with me, Breton?
I don't know if I can fight this. I don't think I can fight this. I definitely agree with Rafael Leão at left wing. I mean, obviously, João Felix is going to make it very, very tough in the near future, but I'd love to see him do it for Portugal. what he's doing for Barcelona, but you can't argue his effect
Mm-hmm.
at this moment in time. And yeah, I mean, my argument is that Portugal will be a better squad moving forward, having settled on Gonzalo Ramos. But Gonzalo Ramos is not scoring for PSG right now. Cristiano Ronaldo is scoring a bunch of goals for Al Nassr. So I really do think it's between Ronaldo and Alvaro Morata, who's actually scoring a bunch of goals this season for a weird
Nah.
Atletico Madrid. So I will agree with you. I'm going to say Ronaldo up top, and I'll say right wing Bernardo Silva, even though Nico Williams and Lamine Yamal
Well
are
said.
coming.
Well said with
Yeah.
Nico Williams and Lamine Yamal. I completely agree. And Cristiano Ronaldo, the stats lately, Cristiano Ronaldo has 8 games, 9 goals, and 5 assists for Al Nassr in their last games. Talisca playing
Mm.
really good. Brozovic, Otavio, Alex Telch, Fofana, so many players that are right there at
Yeah.
Al Nassr too. It's an interesting one. And yeah, you agreed so with Ronaldo. But
Yes,
yes,
I felt the need to, based off of what we were talking about. And PSG is a team we haven't gotten to.
hmm
Just like Ajax, they've still got some soul searching to do. Another one, not to completely change course here, but Lyon, man, Lyon is in relegation mode right now. They lost again, and they benched Rayon Cherki, and they've got some big soul searching to do. So it's funny that a lot of these like development development first, right? Give the youngsters a massive chance to do what they need to do. They're hitting some
well,
speed bumps, I
Well,
guess you can say.
Leon has a
Uh,
loan that I'll be watching more. Leon, that's Diego Moreira. Diego Moreira, I think he came well off the
yeah.
bench, and I'll be interested to see if he gets more minutes in League. But my combined Portugal, Spain 11 has
There
Diogo
you go.
Costa in goal. I have to go Balde ahead of Nun, man. Desculpa, Nun. Then I have Ruben Dias, Rodri at center back, and Cancelo at right back. And my trio in midfield, I have João Pedrinha, Bruno Fernandes, and Pedri. Sorry, Gavi, and my trio of forwards with Rafael Leão, not João Felix. At left wing is a discussion. Cristiano Ronaldo and right wing Bernard Silva. That is my combined team. Tell us yours, Breton.
And no, I don't need to tell you mine. The only change I have here is I
ah.
would put Unai Simon at
Mm.
goalkeeper. That's the
Ah.
only change. I have Unai Simon over Diogo Costa, and then it's Balde, Diaz, Rodri, Cancelo at the back, and it's Palinha, Pedri, and Bruno. And then I do have Rafa Leao, and I have Cristiano Ronaldo over Gonzalo Ramos up top. And I've got in right wing Bernardo Silva, even though I love the way Nico Williams and Lamine Yamal have obviously been playing. So it's going to look really different, I think, like, come the time of Euros,
Mhm.
it's going to look different than this. But it's always fun to do these things, even though they don't necessarily amount to much. But I want to know. I mean, we missed out on some big names. Guerrero has not been healthy for a while at left back. Pedro Porro is playing pretty well. Dalot, I guess, is pretty good. Ruben Neves, we didn't
Matheus
even
Nunes.
mention. Dani Olmo is somebody that needs to at least get an honorable mention here because he's been pretty hot to start the season. But aside from that, no. Portugal over Spain. What is that, like
You
7-4?
you only picked 3 players, I think, that are Spanish.
One,
Pedri,
one, two,
Balde, and Unai
three,
Simon.
four.
Uh,
Four.
and Rodri. Oh, yes.
And Rodri. Yep.
Yes, that's the last
Yeah.
one. But I only picked 3,
But
but let us know what are you thinking down below. Tell us your combined 11 with Portugal and Spain, and make sure you like this video and give us other suggestions of combined 11s that you'd like to see videos on YouTube. But yes, people, let us know in the comment section, what have we missed? Let us know what topics you want to see, and if you're listening until now, thank you so much for listening to episode 24, episode 124. I didn't go back to the past. And thank you for going bold with us another week. Take care, people.